Hi there, Diomira here, and today I would love to talk to you about a word, a concept that I feel that there is a lot of confusion and misconception around, and that is light work. And the reason I want to talk to you about this is because what I have seen in my own in the fairy light community, as well as the larger spiritual community, is that a lot of people are confused about what light work is, what light work isn't. And unfortunately, there is still a great deal of old, outdated ideas that are part of the old spiritual paradigm that are connected to light work, and they are no longer supporting us in what we are really awakening into. And so I want to just spend a little bit of time today sharing with you from my experience what light work is, and also I hope to dispel a lot of ideas that, like I said, are actually not really true. And so many of you know that I am currently going to be leading a trip to Scotland this year. And as I have mentioned, this is a sacred light work mission. Now, what many of you also know is that fairy light is one of its foundations. What it's built on is really sacred light work journeys. And so a lot of my life and a lot of the work that fairy light and I do in the world is really around this this experience of light work and magic making and transformation and all of this sort of thing. And so anyways, as I've been really tuning in to, of course, in this case, the Scotland trip and the journey, and working with the guides and the goddesses and preparing for this transformational experience, what has come to me is this idea around light work. And it also, I think, creates this sort of nebulous obscurity and this sort of mystery, like not in a good way, around this idea. Like, it makes it unapproachable if we don't really understand what light work is. So allow me to just take some time today, and we're just going to talk about what light work is. And then I'm going to talk about, I'm going to use some really fun analogies that came through today when I was sitting in meditation that I want to share with you. And I think it's going to make a whole lot of sense. All right, let's get to it. So what is light work? Light work is a co-creative dance of forces that include the humans who come together, that include the forces of spirit. So this could be spiritual guides, allies. It could be the spiritual forces of the land where we are working. But it is really a co-creative dance of spirit and human, right? That comes together in order to produce changes in consciousness or affect healing, transformation, okay? This is really what light work is. Now, what does that mean? And let's talk about some of the ideas around light work. So a couple of things I think are important to say here, and I want to make sure that I touch on all of these things that are coming into my mind. So I'm going to try to do this in the most organized and, methodical way possible, but we'll see how we do. So in the old, outdated mode of spirituality and the old way of the spiritual paradigm, as good intentioned as many quote unquote light workers, healers, people were, oftentimes they were operating from the Piscean consciousness of victim, martyr, and unworthy. And how does this show up? So I'm going to give a really specific example of how this might show up. Now, I'm sure you all have never done this, and I have never done this, but we all have heard of somebody in the healing arts that while they may have great intentions, they eventually over time begin to complain and say something along these lines. Oh, I had 4 healing sessions today. Oh, I was so drained after this healing session. I was just so tired. I was, doing this healing work all day. So why might somebody be tired after a healing session? If you are coming from a place of love, and if you are coming from a place of non-attachment, when you walk away from a healing session, you are not going to be drained. Why is that? Because in a healing session, and I'm talking about a healing session where we have a client, a person, and we stand forth as healer. In a healing session, we stand forth as a channel of healing light, whether that be Reiki, universal life force energy, fairy light, earth light, starlight, whatever light that we are channeling, the highest love of the universe, whatever it is, we are simply being a channel, and that energy is flowing through us and to the client. We are not doing anything other than holding space, holding intention, and if we are coming away exhausted, it means that we have tried to heal instead of from our hearts, being focused in our hearts, we are trying to heal from our will and our ego. When we try to heal from our will and our ego, yes, we come away feeling drained and exhausted because we are trying to force a healing outcome as opposed to allowing the healing to go where it wants to go and allowing the person, the client, to receive and choose. They receive and choose. What are they choosing? Well, they are owning the healing that is coming through. You are holding space and you are saying, I see your highest intention. I see your highest soul. I do not see illness, disease, dis-ease, or disharmony. I see your highest potential. And you're holding that highest potential and you're channeling the love. And in doing that, they have a choice and they can receive that love or not. And they have a choice and they can own that highest expression of themselves or they cannot. Now, of course, this is not about the client and putting things on them. Sometimes always healing is a journey. But the point is that it is not the healer's job to dictate the outcome. We simply stand forth as a healing channel of love with intention, holding that space, and we allow the healing to take place based on all of the other forces that are coming together in that moment. Okay? In the case of healing, we're holding space for that healing light, but we're also working with the spiritual forces of reality. We are co-creating with them, and so is the client. The client that is either laying on your healing table or sitting before you in a counseling session, they are co-creating with you. We look at them as if they are the absolute master, powerful co-creator being that they are, and we hold space for that so that that healing transformation can come about as this co-creative dance between all of us. So this analogy we can look at and we can use when we are talking about healing work as it relates to land or to more global or collective areas of focus. And it's the same thing. We are not going with a certain intention to heal land when we engage in light work. Instead, what we are going with an open heart, an open mind, we are going with loving intention, and we know that as we stand forth as a channel of love and healing light, that all that which is around us is blessed. Now, I want to say something before I go further down this little bit right here, and that is going back to when we're receiving the analogy of the client. The other reason that when we stand forth as a healing channel, we don't walk away feeling drained is because as we stand forth as a healing channel, we are receiving as much as we are giving. When that energy begins to flow through us, we are receiving all the benefit and blessing of that healing light. It moves through us and it moves through into the client. That's why oftentimes I would walk away from a healing session feeling invigorated, inspired, excited. I also feel transformed and healed. You see, it works for both the person who is standing forth as channel and the person who is receiving, the client on the other end. And so this is why if you have ever experienced being drained when you're doing a healing session with a person, then I would encourage you to really actually look at that and ask yourself, in what way am I trying to force the situation? In what way am I trying to, place my will on the situation? Even if you have the best of intentions, even if we have the best of intentions, like of course we want people to, for their suffering to end, for their healing to occur. But we also have to realize that as healers, not my will, but thy, right? It's that universal life force, and ultimately it's up to the client. It's really not our business how they choose to appropriate the healing energy and what they choose to do with it. We have to be willing to release and surrender to what is the highest good. And sometimes healing has each of us, the healing that occurs is very different for each person. And what is healing for one person may not be healing for another. And healing does not necessarily mean that a disease is gone. Sometimes you may receive a healing in consciousness and you may have gotten exactly what you needed to, but it looks a lot different than you had expected. And these are all the things that we must keep in mind when we stand forth as healers, as light workers, as that sort of thing, which I know, of course, all of you know, but I think this is just one of those old paradigms that is no longer serving us, is that oftentimes a lot of healers and light workers have a hard time, receiving, and have a hard time, a lot of what they do, sometimes we believe that we do not deserve to receive. Sometimes we believe that we have to do all this good in order to be worthy. And a lot of this has come through from our old, spiritual paradigms, our old traditional backgrounds, old patterns. All of these things really impact the way that we stand forth as channels, as healers, as light workers. And so I know this can be a difficult subject, but I think it's important to speak to it. And so that's why I really wanted to share this. So as we stand forth and as light workers, if we are called to a particular land, what we must know is that, first of all, we are not coming there as saviors. The land is not a victim. The earth is not a victim. And this is a hard pill to swallow because, again, we want to save the planet, save the environment. But we have to know that that is that old Piscean consciousness. Humans are really the only creatures that I have met, certainly on planet Earth, that have the ability to see themselves as victim. I have never experienced an animal, a plant, an area of land, a spirit of nature, a member of the she that has seen themselves as victim. Save me. I'm suffering. Save me. That energy, I have never experienced it. And I believe that the victim savior dynamic is truly a human dynamic. And it's fine, there's no judgment, but it's important to understand this before charging into an experience of light work. Because with light work, we are not coming to save anything. What we are coming is to follow the light in our own heart in response to the call from the light of the land and its spiritual forces. And as we do that, what happens is a co-creative dance of healing forces come together. You, me, the spirits of the animals, the plants, the fairy beings, the land, the trees, and other human participants. We all come together and we stand forth. And we allow this energetic to build and grow between us. And as we do, we are transformed. Yes, the place that we touch is transformed forever, but so too are we. And the other thing that I want to share about this is that it doesn't have to be hard. This is also part of the old spiritual paradigm where it had to be rigorous and difficult. In many cases, in my experience with these sacred light work experiences and explorations, the most difficult thing is the mastering of our own emotions. What do I mean by that? I mean that these experiences can trigger or bring up, they can amplify the emotions that are already within us. The deep cellular imprints can be unearthed. And so as a result, it requires an extraordinary degree of self-awareness and courage to be able to stand and hold space for not just that which is coming through, but also that which is coming up within you as a result of a number of different things. And when we get, us humans, when we get confronted with big emotions, whether it's from another or whether it's being unearthed within ourselves, that can sometimes be very challenging and trying. And it requires a great deal of willingness to stay with that emotion, hold space for that emotion, and at the same time not allow that emotion to dictate how you respond in the situation, right? And that goes down into the whole conversation around projecting and all that fun stuff, right? But I really wanted to bring this up and talk about this because I think that, as I mentioned, there is a lot of confusion around what light work is and what it isn't. And the old way of doing it is that rigorous, like, days, and we're tired and all of the things. And the last time I was part of a beautiful sacred light work exploration was, as many of you know who followed me in the 11 days in the live series, in Germany and Austria. And I'll tell you, for those of you who didn't get an opportunity to watch that series, that video series, is that midpoint in the journey, while we were in the Black Forest and we were called to do this beautiful healing ceremony of reconnection between human and fairy. And while it was intense in that it brought up a lot of emotion for me personally, and I think for a lot of the people watching it and participating, it felt so rewarding and so fulfilling and so heart-opening and so beautiful. And it was easy as anything. In that, easy, not in the way, as I said, it was emotionally challenging in that it brought up some emotions for me. But it was easy in that we stood there. We felt the energy. We felt the love. There was this beautiful visualization. There was this beautiful connection between all of the forces. And it maybe lasted, 5 or 10 minutes. Maybe 15 at the most. But then it was complete. It was done. And part of the reason why it lasted even if that long is because the energy was so beautiful and so profound and so so beautiful to be a part of. You almost didn't want to leave. It was like the resurrecting of these deep ancient soul memories. And so if light work, as I said, it can be healing work and working with clients or working with animals or working with plants. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be at the level of, working at a global scale. But whatever it is, it should leave us feeling invigorated, alive, and transformed. If you're coming away feeling anything but, if you're coming away feeling tired or drained or anything like that, then I would encourage you to really explore and just check in next time and say, how can I do this? How can this be easy? How can this be a blessing to me as well? We don't have to stand forth as channels of light work to be worthy. We are each, you are each, all already worthy of all the love of creation. You are beautiful. And that is my message to you today. You all are so beautiful, so worthy of love, so worthy of fun, joyful, magnificent living and self-expression. That is what light work is about. All right, I hope you found this video inspiring and maybe even thought-provoking. So do feel free to respond to me by replying in the comments or in the email, and I would love to hear from you. What has been your experience of light work? What does light work mean to you? And as always, blessings and fairy light. And of course, if your soul is calling you to this sacred upcoming light work mission in the beautiful, magical land of Scotland, then please go ahead and reply. I have so much enjoyed reading everybody's applications, and I cannot wait to talk to you. All right. Blessings and fairy light.